The major value in life is not what you get. The major value in life is what you become.
You don't know about me. Got a future in my hands.
What you're in fact doing is you're exploring an incredible adventure and telling others that they can do it too. I'm gonna make this as brief, as concise, and as impactful as possible. I'm gonna speak for about 12 minutes, and I'm gonna just deliver 3 messages. All 3 of these messages, I hope, light a bit of a fire, all right? And all 3 of them are distinct. One is 1 slide, one's about 5. And then what I did to start this presentation is I decided I would do something very tactical. Whenever you're presenting to a room full of agents, my belief is that they should be able to walk out the room with something that they can immediately implement into a commission generating activity. So I've got 3 slides. If you guys want to take pictures, you're more than welcome to. This is my 7-figure client and advocate business model. I'm not good at a lot of stuff. I'm definitely not good at door knocking, cold prospecting, open house, Google, online leads, or some of the other conventional things, but I'm very good at what I do well and what I prioritize, which is the people around me and the people around them. I focus on repeat and referral business, and I focus on alliances. All right, so this is my model. If you have any questions about any of these things, this is what we do every year, and we scaled it by 22% a year. Feel free to send me a DM. Second thing, a lot of real estate agents will say, well, what's your tech stack, right? Is anybody from the vintage that used to do deals without DocuSign? You remember those days, right? These are the things that I use every day, all right? Except KV Core, I put it in there. I'm not a big CRM guy, that is my CRM. I don't use it every day. And then lastly, these are my best team practices. So I have incredible retention on my team. We lead by culture. We've been able to create a group of like-minded, smart, entrepreneurial top producers. We cultivate talent. We don't revolve the door. And my job as a team leader is to be a servant leader. My job is to make sure that when I wake up in the morning, right after making sure my wife and my kids, they're the shareholders of my company, are taken care of, my next job is to make sure that the members on my team have everything they need to go out and crush it. So here's the question. If you can do that, 7-figure advocacy program, and you got your business going, right? Business is good, right? I've been doing this now 17 years. And right around the time of year 6 or 7, we stopped burning as much fuel and we caught some altitude, right? We caught some breeze. So what happens? Has anybody heard of the term lifestyle inflation? Lifestyle inflation says you get the watch, you take the trip, you buy the house, you eat at the nice restaurants. And when you start acquiring these things, that's beautiful and that's part of capitalism. But the big question is, once you have that, now what, right? Is anybody into professional development, personal development? A lot of you are. Me and you, we talked about reading Daily Stoic. Christina, we went to Archangel Summit together. This question of substance, this question of impact, this question of what are you doing with your time should be the question that you seek to answer every day. And for me, what I've discovered is that people are most excited, people are most happy, people are most joyous when they're doing 2 things. Does anybody have a guess at what those 2 things are? Giving and growing. It's not about being a top producer. It's figuring out when you become a top producer and you've solved the puzzle, what do you do? So in my world, I have 3 sort of groups of people, 3 buckets, all right? Those buckets are my database, that's about 50% of my bucket. My community, that's about 30% of my bucket. And the last would be my colleagues, my industry, and my peers, and that's about 20% of my bucket. There's another bucket, it's called strangers. And I'm not so good with that. I have stranger danger, If someone calls me, I don't recognize the number, chances are I'm inquiring who they are and kind of vetting my time and my availability for that person. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's not my bucket of priority at this junction in my time. So with these buckets, I challenge every single person in this room to say, what will you do to be of impact? What will you do to create this? So I'm Indian. I practice the principle of karma. And I believe that what you give in slices, you receive in loaves. That's an Irish statement. And it's very true. Your job is to figure out what you can give to therefore start the giving process. Has anybody heard of giver's gain philosophy? Once you actually engage with someone, you show interest, you demonstrate value, you provide utility, you do something for someone, there's this level of gratitude and indebtedness that creates results, all right? How will you serve is the question that you should be asking yourself. And the service equation basically says that there's this meeting point. When once you've done enough for people, what ends up happening is you've kind of put out, scientifically, physically, enough that you don't have to worry. You live in a state of abundance. You have this sense of positivity and optimism. Now, don't get me wrong, there's going to be shitty days, right, guys? Like, there's going to be obstacles in your way. But if you have created this sort of mental space, you recognize that that's just part of the journey. You're talking to someone who's 7 years cancer-free and almost died at 26. I don't believe in negative energy. I believe in solutions, not problems. So here's the thing. Hang on, guys. Let's try this slide again. There's about 6 people on this slide, only 3 of them here. The other 3 are invisible, all right? But we don't have to look far in our community to find top producers who are creating impact for their database, for their community, and for their colleagues. And you know what? I hope that this talk today triggers something to say, well, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? And how will I do that with the mindset that the service equation means that I will reap the benefit? And by the way, it's not about the benefit, all right? Ara, who's in the back there, he's the dapper chap in the upper right. Well, during the pandemic, he was actually able to create a program for kids that needed Zoom devices, laptops, tablets. Ara, what's the name of the website that you have? Digitalbridgeproject.org. Digitalbridgeproject.org. Please think about that. Mary Jo Veredas from Rare Realty, she's not in this picture. I don't know why, but she has done so much work with food scarcity in the city of Toronto during the pandemic, because the pandemic really sucked, right? We all know that. She opened a soup kitchen out of her client's restaurant that was actually going to go under. So by serving her client, she was also able to serve that community. Ryan and Nikki Saravale, who are from Revel, I see John in the back, they decided to take their brokerage model and say, you know what? Let's not give out trophies, let's have a ball, but let's make it a charitable ball. And I think that's really cool. And my mentors who are in this picture, Ken, Deb, and Steve, they're on a 10X journey in everything that they do. It's very sort of interesting to be a spectator and a cheerleader in that process. And they've actually started something called Hallmark Giving, which is a non-for-profit organization that distributes an immense amount of resources to charities all over the province of Ontario. And I'm not saying that this is what anybody else needs to do. I'm just saying there's a law of reciprocity. I'm also saying that on your epitaph, you don't want it to read top 1% of TREB. You also don't want it to read 100 million followers. And you also don't want it to read more open houses than anybody else in the industry. You want to be of impact and of substance. And by the way, it's very marketable. All right? Now me, over the last 2 years, I was able to blend hospitality, which is my prior career. I used to be the man around town in downtown Toronto.
You're still the man around town.
Well, thank you. My wife would disagree, but that's okay. I blended hospitality, real estate, and charity, and good causes. Mutual Release was started right after the pandemic. A mortgage broker who used to be the manager of a nightclub called 1812 and Wildflower said, Rav, why don't we do something for our industry? And I said, absolutely, but let's make sure it's a charitable event. And we started forming the guiding principles for this brand, and it started to take off. Mutual Release was to foster a sense of community. It was to raise money for worthy causes, and it was to let loose and have fun. Anybody who knows the Connexus Group corporate charter, my team's called Connexus. One of our key metrics is fun and good experiences, because nobody wants to have energy drained. People want to have energy that pumps you up. So we created this event And in the last 3 events, we raised $15,000, $800 for the Canadian Cancer Society, $14,460 for Alzheimer's Society, and $15,950 for Feed Ontario. But here's the thing. I was merely the catalyst. You know what happens? Has anybody ever heard that saying, our deepest fear is that we are not inadequate, our deepest fear is that we are brighter and greater than possible? The end of that statement says when you actually allow yourself to step into capacity and light, you, in so doing, encourage others to do the same. There's a builder, his name is Hirsch Litvak. When he heard I was doing this for the first time, he said, Rav, here's $3,000. I said, Hirsch, for real? He said, you want to make it 35? I said, I want to make it 5. And he said, okay, here you go. And when Steve, my broker owner, heard that, he said, how much did Hirsch give? Yeah. Okay, let's top that. Right? And it was a friendly competition, but in the same breath, that would have never happened had there not been some little step, some little pebble in the water, some little start block for the whole thing. And guys, I realize this. We can do a lot on our own. We could do more together. And there's another saying. The sum of our parts is greater than each part on its own put together. I think that's the saying. So I do a lot for the industry. I want to say a lot when I compare to Ron or John or the people who are vested into it as broker owners or business development managers for brands, but I do a fair bit. Every year I can count on at least $80,000 in GCI right now coming downstream from agents within the community. And by the way, that only goes up as you do more for other people. But here's the thing. That's only one metric for anything that is related to giving to other people, right? And as we grow and as we mature, we realize that while money is an important metric, it's right up there with oxygen, right? Let's be honest. If you don't have money, you cannot do a lot of things. It's just plain and simple. But it's not the be all and end all. Ask yourself this, write it down, think about it. What will your legacy be? What will people say when you're gone? What will be on your epitaph, right? Epitaph's kind of gloomy. What will your legacy be, right? Right? Think about it, because guess what? In the real estate business, you get the opportunity to create your future. You have, yes, unlimited free time and unlimited income. Let's scratch that off the list for a second. But in all reality, you have the opportunity to dictate your path. Who here is under the age of 40? Okay. I'll put my hand down, right? I've got a little bit more vintage than 35 or 30. And when I was about 35, one of my mentors said to me this really impactful line. He said, why not you? That's such a great question, because it's not hard to play small, but it benefits nobody, right? Now the method, I put that in the first 3 slides. I said, this is what I do, and I don't do much more. I don't complicate my business. I am working on a couple other pillars because the market's a little wonky, so I've got some stuff cooking. But I know what I can do, and it's very predictable, and I don't do everything else. Life is about creating meaning, and meaning doesn't come from what you get. It comes from what you give. And this is the last message I want to leave you with today. All right? And this is not to offend anybody. This is not to, point the finger at anyone, but this is to point the finger at us, all right? We're very good at showing shiny trophies. We're very good at showing accolade and success. And sometimes we're good at writing the comment saying, thank you to my clients, this is for you, or whatever version of that is, right? We're amazing at celebrating us, right? That's a little upside down, guys. Let's find ways to acknowledge how we can be of service in this industry. Let's find ways to create with our voice, with our social reach, with all the other tools possible, more impact, less lens on us, right? In all honesty, I don't see architects, engineers, lawyers, accountants, doctors, dentists, or any other profession doing it the way we do for some reason, right? And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying let's just find a nice balance, right? I'm gonna leave you with one quote. Does anybody know Jim Rohn? That's my vintage again, right? Like, he's OG. But it says, the major value in life is not what you get. The major value in life is what you become. And I didn't say what you give, it's what you become. Because as you grow and step into the legacy that you're looking to build, what you're in fact doing is you're exploring an incredible adventure and telling others that they can do it too. Thank you.